Most humans have their own beliefs and lives, as well as origins that help slowly build their opinion on something. Years of experience built on top of every human being to be able to create a concise opinion on something. And with the development of the digital age, these opinions fade the gray line of what opinions come from experiences and what doesn't. And with that, life has become a stronger challenge. But besides that, I think there's one thing everyone can agree on. Video games are pretty fun, man. They come in different shapes and sizes and possess different genres and styles and topics and lots more junk I wouldn't be able to fit in a media arts project. But I want to go over one specific pattern I noticed throughout the several games I played in my lifetime. Developers can use a stylistic choice in a video game to drag in a certain demographic and follow up by giving a theme to said demographic. Basically what I'm trying to say is, a video game's design and style, in contrast to its topic and gameplay, helps set the foundation for what thematic message the developers want to send and to what demographic. And I wanted to study this by looking at different games and putting them on a cardinal compass I named the Story and Visual Difference Compass. The horizontal axis determines the style of the video game and how it either deviates or assimilates to the realism of modern games. The vertical axis determines the story of the video game and whether or not the game tries to tell a serious story or goofy story. We'll cover each game's story, design, and how these factors affect the theme it tells and what demographic developers are telling it to. Oh yeah, and I'm still trying to find a goofy realistic game, but it's been really hard to find one. I'll get back to you when I find one later in this video. Let's begin this by going over a cartoony yet depressing game that I keep close to my heart. Made by anonymous developer Omori and published by Playism on Christmas 2020, Omori is a turn-based RPG-inspired psychological horror with aspects similar to retro RPGs like Earthbound. Widely appreciated for its characters and art style, and a common cult classic within this last year. Four years after the tragic death of his big sister, Sonny has coped by staying inside his house and leaving his friends behind, leaving only himself, his thoughts, and his dreams. The story takes place both inside and outside of his dreams, and slowly unfolds the dark, tragic truth he holds deep inside his thoughts. We learn about his fears throughout his dream. Remembering how his sister would teach him how to calm down and focus, he learned to strengthen himself and later face his fears. All of this leading up to having to cope with the cold, devastating truth about his sister's death he wishes he would have forgotten long ago. The game goes much more in depth and discusses about serious topics such as suicide, depression, and anxiety within the story, which would be too much to cover in this, but would be greatly recommended to look into if you're interested. As stated before, the game takes on a pixelated retro design homage to older games as referenced before, Earthbound, and more modern RPGs like Undertale. Outside of this design, the characters appear as if they are drawn by a person, with visible scribbles filling in their color and line work, which plays really well when it comes into the dream aspect of the whole game. Trust me. Enemies and characters have over-the-top style and goofy designs both in the real world and in the dream world. But when the game takes a sinister tone, its design creates a great contrast between the dark and light tones of the story that makes these dark parts of the game truly uncanny. The demographic feels targeted to younger people, around the age where these dark emotions are more prevalent. Its cartoony aspect, mixed together with dark themes, is what can help others sympathize with Sonny and his traumatic experiences as well. The overall messages from the game is broad depending on how you look at the experiences and ending of the game. The game does an incredible job at explaining depression within a dark story, and the theme would be tied to learning to cope with the loss of someone you love, accepting the truth, and moving on before life catches up. much more in-depth conclusions could come from this, but this is the greatest theme that comes from this game. No. 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 Alright. Omori was maybe a bit too serious to cover first. Let's go over a more goofier game to cheer up the mood of this video. Developed by Rodman Walker and published by Valve Software in October of 2007, Team Fortress 2 is a cartoony yet gruesome and chaotic online first-person shooter that doesn't take itself too seriously. Since its creation, the game has received many updates throughout its lifespan. With the many creations from users being shared across the platform, TF2 still holds up to this day as a well-known and popular game. The game even has a thriving economy full of cosmetics that players can equip. Some cosmetics that could probably pay off my future student loans if I had my hands on one of them. Ooh, that looks good. The main story can't be found within the game besides small chunks of in-depth storytelling. For that, the Team Fortress 2 animated videos and comic series comes in great handy for learning everything you need to know about its world. The story is about a rich man known as Zephaniah Man who is convinced by his sons Redmond Man and Blue Tarch Man to buy a huge chunk of land in Mexico and live there. Later regretting his decision to buy the land, in his passing will he writes that both brothers shall share the land. This was a little inconvenient because, both were very willing to kill each other for the other's land. This slowly leads into both sides hiring mercenaries to fight each other in what feels like an endless battle against the other team, becoming the foundation of the 9 main mercenaries and the start of Team Fortress 2. The style of Team Fortress 2 was composed by lead designer Moby Frank, who took Team Fortress 2's original and sort of bland concept art style into something much more cartoony than what the team envisioned. Frank took inspiration from 20th century advertisements and World War propaganda posters to make characters with unique, over-the-top designs that could define the 9 playable mercenaries just by their silhouette. The world built upon this is a chaotic mash of fighters going against each other in a fight for land, all with different personalities, origins, etc. There's even an in-game function to dance with people from the other team if you don't feel like fighting. It's hard to connect TF2's story to a theme, especially when its story is pure chaos when looked at in a big picture. Santa Claus runs a child labor workshop, the world looks straight out of the Jetsons, and yet it's still 1890. One of the mercenaries dies and literally outsmarts the devil with his own adversary's souls. It's too much to even comprehend, so I want to put a thematic tie to Team Fortress 2's gameplay instead of its story. In TF2, you and your team work together to push back the other team and complete the objective. The main focus here is the factor of working with your team, coordinating pushes, defending choke points, and checking other people's backs when necessary. Why this is such an important factor is because you're working with real people during the game. No AI, no robots, people from different parts of the world and different situations working together to win an online game. This game can essentially teach you how to work with other people, and hell, maybe you'll build a connection out of it with someone. They don't call it Team Fortress 2 for nothing, am I right? Otherwise, the demographic is widespread. The characters' bright and cartoony designs to the senseless story to the graphic violence and sturdy gameplay and almost infinite skill ceilings that others developers strive to create to keep players playing, Team Fortress 2 balances its cartoony design with its rock-solid gameplay and mechanical prowess to give an experience that almost any person can get a kick out of. TF2 is for everyone. Ooh, that looks good. Okay.
Okay, now it's time for Detroit Become Human. I forgot to record my voice for the intro.
Detroit Become Human is a story-driven adventure developed by Quantic Dream, published by Sony, and directed by David Cage. It follows in a futuristic Detroit, Michigan, where humans have created intelligent androids built to work as servants for humans. This choose-your-own-adventure game contains 85 total endings, some which cover small differences, and some that completely change the story based on your decision. Oh, but say, that's what a choose-your-own-adventure game is, right? Shut up! The story focuses on 3 main androids that you control. Kara is a servant that worked for a crazy and broken man that abuses his daughter. Kara could not resist seeing her get hurt, especially after getting told off and beat up by the man as well.
You stay there. Don't you dare fucking move, or I'll bust you worse than last time.
Kara broke free from her system due to her emotional struggle and ran away with the child from her abusive father. Connor is a high-intel android detective working for the Detroit Police Department with his human detective assistant Hank Anderson. Connor was assembled with the main goal to shut down sentient and rogue androids going against their owners to keep the peace in human life, while constantly barraged with the urge to become sentient against the will of his creators.
Why couldn't you just have left me there?
I was programmed to hunt deviants like you. I just accomplished my mission.
I don't want to die.
Then talk to me.
Finally, Marcus, who is an android servant for famous artist Carl Manfred. Manfred teaches him about how androids are treated in society, influencing him to become his own person against the will of the system.
That is a perfect copy of reality. The painting is not about replicating the world, it's about interpreting, improving on it, showing something you see.
Carl, I don't think I can do that. It's not in my program.
Go on, go, try it. Grab that canvas.
After he is taken by the police and dismembered, he continuously builds himself back together and promises to his owner and himself to build and lead a revolution against the humans. The choices you make for these 3 androids will sometimes completely change how the story will end, and the game leaves it up to you to face the dilemmas these characters go against. The design of Detroit Become Human is inspired by the future dystopian world that humans would believe we'd happen to come across in the near future. Cars are automatically driven, androids have replaced most human jobs, and these same robots are slowly becoming sentient throughout the story to the point where they kill their own owners. The buildings at night are inspired by the neon style of Neo Tokyo, and the design of the robots are built to look essentially like real, breathing humans. Concept-wise, the world looks and feels real and the graphics are incredibly stunning. Being able to create a one-to-one design of a human in a video game has never been easier, especially with current modern technology. Like, look at that, that's crazy. The modern age graphics and subject of robot sentience will be a direct target to both in-depth gamers and sci-fi fans alike, as well as being able to make them think about how the application of the story could be applied to our real-life situations, and how they can make a change. This story follows the same narrative of the dystopian and sentient future that can be seen in Terminator, a war against creation that can be either settled with peace or destruction. The narrative that's taken from this story can be seen as a stand for what you believe in sort of theme, or the human rights for all theme. I believe the theme of this whole video is just the theme of being seen as just lesser. Throughout the game, androids are abused, beaten, and even terminated by their own owners whenever they become broken or sentient. Humans believe androids don't deserve rights the same as theirs because they see androids as lesser, servants for higher-ups without the will to think freely. The theme takes into account the powerful bravery of standing up against the greater majority and being able to believe in your own right from any standpoint you live in. This theme especially matters with the experience it comes from. Kara wanted to take care of an abused child and create a fulfilling family. Connor learned about the true intentions of humans against androids when he talked to other abused and rebellious androids through interrogation. And Marcus started a revolution to stand for not just himself, but for everyone. These three main characters stood for what they believed in, whether it was in silence or to a crowd of people. This story's theme is a theme of being more than being what you were made for, but what you want to be. Video games are, well, video games. You play them in your free time and get a great experience from them. And that greatly comes from the story of a game as well as the theme you can construct from it. What's important in video games is that some make you think hard about either the decisions you make or the events that happens as you play through it. These three games have completely different developers, genres, and even an intent behind their existence. Yet the design and topic of a game can completely change how a person can look at a game. Being able to give a theme to the right demographic is a strive for developers, and these three video games are an incredible example of what it takes for a game to give meaning to someone. I still haven't gone over a good, goofy, realistic game. Maybe there just aren't any after all. Well, I guess that comes to show that video games still have lots of time until a true limit for what makes a video game meaningful is reached. Unless...
Hey, how's it going? Let's do this!
Reputation is everything. If a Yakuza shows weakness, he's done.
Time to call a friend! Order!
What the?
Happy birthday!
You know what? Maybe video games have already reached their limit.